Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live stream. I'm joined, as you can see, by Johan and Tassos to talk about the new features that we have just released. We mainly introduced several new features for the mobile apps and changed how a couple of things work in the Youth Academy. But I think that while we wait for everyone to join, we could watch the release video where we explain everything that we have implemented today. What do you say, guys? Shall we do it?
Sounds like a great idea.
No. So let's go. And while we're watching, you guys can start asking questions if you have any. So let me see if I can find it. It's here. Hello, fellow Hattrickers. Here we are again with a new monthly release, and this one includes many improvements in several areas. First of all, for the last few weeks we have been working hard on the mobile apps, especially trying to improve them from the point of view of the users who rarely or never visit the website, although of course these bug fixes and improvements will benefit all app users, including the more occasional ones. For instance, we've improved the manager license and the match order page, which now includes better training information and clearer player detail views. We've also redesigned the staff hiring page and the youth overview. The design change to youth involves how the scouts work and will be implemented on the web as well. Scouts will no longer be called one after the other, which requires managers to reject one prospect before being able to look at the next. Instead, from next weekend, you will see all available prospects side by side, giving you a better and more logical way to decide what is best for your team. This will work the same way for both academies and scout networks. Also, for academy players ready to promote, we will no longer limit promotions to one per week. You will be able to promote as many players as you want to your senior team as soon as they are ready. Just bear in mind that you need to have at least 11 players in your youth squad. We've also added a few improvements to our logo editor. Now texts can be curved, you can import images as SVG files which can be resized without losing quality, and you can create symbols that are copies of your current logo shape so that you can create outlines, reflections or shadows. Finally, after some seasons in which the 8 most recent countries in the hat-trick world have not been able to start their national teams due to lack of slots in the World Cup system, their wait will come to an end thanks to the Contender League, a new Swiss-style tournament parallel to the Continental Cups, which in its first edition will feature Bahamas, Burkina Faso, Grenada, Guinea, Guyana, Nepal, Rwanda and Tahiti. It is mainly a way for these teams to build ranking points, but the best teams in the Contender League will also have a chance to go to the World Cup through the wildcard playoffs. As the next national team season comes around, ranking points will decide what teams qualify for the Continental Cups and which ones play in the Contender League. So that they can start preparing, these 8 countries will be granted access to their national teams a bit ahead of the regular schedule. Elections for the national teams will be held in early December, with under-21 elections scheduled for the season after. We've also increased the number of prospects for national teams to 300 players and added new columns and player preview pop-ups to the national team and under-21 player tables. Finally, league reforms made for this season have been successful. We will take a further step in January. Our current prediction is that 37 leagues will be affected, getting tighter and more narrow league shapes. See you next month. Well, for what we could see in the forum, on social media too, and even here in the chat, the features that almost everyone is talking about are related to the Youth Academy. First, the fact that from this weekend on, you will be able to call all youth scouts at the same time and choose which player you prefer instead of going one after the other and risking it. And also the possibility to promote multiple players in the same week. For instance, we already have the same comment about this. And actually the first question, I would say. Now you can release multiple players in the same week after they turn 17 years old and 0 days. But they still have to be in the youth team for 112 days minimum, right? Tassos, you can reply to this one.
Yeah, that's correct. One limitation, it's time. So we don't plan to remove it yet.
Yeah, actually, some of the questions that I saw in the forum are about, okay, you did this, but does this mean that this other thing changes? So if we don't announce it, it means it doesn't change.
Yeah.
Like there was another question, for instance, are you showing more info, or are the scouts showing more info of the players? No, because we didn't say it, actually. And actually, I would say that the mobile app is also something that has been, to a lesser extent, commented quite a lot. I think we all agree that it was needed, right, Johan?
Yeah, it's actually the bigger part of the release. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that has changed, and a lot of stuff that was broken in there, especially for new users. So we did we all signed up for new teams and tried to play them only through the mobile, and had a lot of problems understanding what was going on, and even some things were plain not working. So there's a lot of small things, and some bigger structural things, and a lot of small details that has been fixed.
Yeah, it's like you said, I think it was in the previous stream, that at the beginning this app was supposed to be a companion, right?
Yeah.
And with probably the evolution of the human communication and whatever we used to be in front of computers, and now we have phones. It's become more and more like the way to play Hattrick for lots of people. So
it's surprising, because it's not like we have given people a chance to play the game on mobile, but to actually sign up and play the whole game on mobile, and that's has not been our expectation of how users behave, but we found out that they actually behave that way. So I guess then we will have to fix the app for them. So it's been quite surprising. Like I've run into people that have found Hattrick and started playing it, and never went to the website, basically. So there's still a lot to do, but I mean, I guess some of the very deep things that gives you a lot of data, and where you drill deep into data might not be possible to do in a good way in the app, but people that use the app might not expect that either, or want it, but functionally you should be able to do everything in the app as on the website, maybe just with less context.
So I guess we will do some more mobile updates.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we will let this sink in now, and I'm probably gonna do another round of this, more like just trying to use it ourselves, and of course listen to what users say. But it's hard with the app. That's another thing, is that we don't get nearly as good feedback from the users that use the app. They don't talk to us. That it's not easy for them to communicate with us, so we never find out when something is not working, unless it's a web user that gets lost and uses the app by mistake, and tells us that it's not working like he expected it, or she expected. I mean, that's quite often when we get bug reports about the app, but there's bigger things that we miss, so we have to go look for them ourselves.
Okay, is there anything that you'd like to add, Tasos, maybe about this, or shall we go back to the youth teams, because there are lots of questions about it?
I think Johan covered everything. The most important thing is that this mobile release was kind of focused on new user experience. It was a little bit make things more clear, fixing bugs. The manager license got revamped. Not the current users will be realized. They won't realize that. But we have a totally new interface for that in mobile. So we expect to see some extra users coming from mobile because of that. So yeah, mobile app is certainly something we're gonna focus more and more.
Okay, so let's go back to the youth academy or the youth team, because I think we have already 5 questions that I have highlighted. So let's start, chronologically. We have Destrello asking, well, first of all, saying good changes, but now the youth scout choice will be easier. Are you afraid of worse quality youth players on the long run? Because the rejected youth players will be worse and the pool refresh will add better players at the same rhythm. Let's stop here. Tasos?
Well, I don't think it will be affected a lot because there was this behavior that many users follow, like calling first scout, is he 15 years old? No. Reject him. Go to the second one. Reject him until they found the 50 years old. It's not common. It's quite rare to get 250 years old at the same time with a new system. It's 1 out of the 3rd chances to get one. So even less common to get 2 of them. So I don't think it will be affected on that scale that will significantly worse the quality. We might see something, but we are going to monitor the data and we act if something happens. But my gut feeling is it won't be such a significant change.
We will still study it, of course, with every other thing that could happen that has been mentioned in the forum. And the other question by Destrello, when will we have a Youth Academy Cup? Will we have one someday?
Cup? I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure. The thing is that I guess, what are you assuming? It's a national cup then, or what, the regional cup, or a cup within your youth league, or what?
I guess like a competition,
Yeah,
like that is, I would say, official. Maybe.
Yeah, I understand. I've always wanted to do something that like adds a balance, like a competitive element that you need to balance between training and competitions. Like let's say that you could sometimes sacrifice optimizing your training or unlocking youth players because you want to win something, and if you win it, you might get the benefit. So that there's like it's not like you're sacrificing training, but because you could actually win in the end. So there's absolutely space for some kind of competition, but I just don't know, like if we need another national competition, maybe it would be fun to do something around regions, but the problem there is that the regions are so different in sizes. So yeah, I haven't at least found a good idea yet for it.
Yeah, it would be like a decision that many people will have to take. Like, are we focusing on competing with the youth team, or are we still focusing on that player that we want to promote at 17-year-old and 0 days and sell it? Or are we focusing on bringing good, like, future players for the senior team? I think it could add like a different element. Many people will not be competitive, that's sure, but
I think most wouldn't want to be competitive, and that's what we would expect. But it's still, I mean, I don't know. I mean, there is something off when you have a leagues, like you join a league and there's a winner, but no one cares about any results. It's just something that doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
I think especially these young kids would want to win, even though it's not the best for the team. So
I'm actually quite competitive with my youth teams a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've won 4 times a youth league lately, and I'm about maybe to win for the fifth time. But I'm still focusing on a player, so I try to keep a balance. Maybe there are some other cases like me. At least I have to win something. I don't win anything else. So, okay, let's focus on another question. I think this is something that we give for granted sometimes, but it's good to answer it. The scout who does not choose the player will have another different player for the following week.
Every week we'll have different players.
Even if you didn't call him, he will show a different player.
Yeah. It's exactly the same as before. Right now, it's just like all 3 of them right away. Nothing changed.
Perfect. What else? A question for Tasos. Those scouts are pretty stupid sometimes. Nice start. They don't even report the specs of players who have an event in the game. Are the scouts not watching the game, Tasos?
Well, scouts are playing people. I mean, they can lose track by playing another Hattrick on the mobile. They might miss that event. So it's not like robots that it's not recorded. They just write down whatever they see that time, so they can miss that event. But more than joking, we want to keep that. I mean, people like users read the reports, trying to find things that scouts don't give them is like a skill. The same, those that read the stars, they try to understand something out of the player rating, try different positions. Yeah, we can automate everything. We can let scouts train for them, but we're gonna remove every aspect of user skill if we do it like that.
I think it's fun to watch the game report and realizing, oh, this player is powerful, and I didn't know. So I think it's like a nice moment when you discover this. Of course, it's nice when the scout tells you, but I think it's less fun.
There was a funny comment in the forum today where I said something that it would be fun to have like a moment of suspense, like we add something. So when you have done the final selection, there is still something that you can like an egg to open, like some kind of information that you reveal. And then someone said, yeah, the player that got rejected, he headbutts you and leaves the office, and then you find out that he's powerful, you let him go. So maybe that's what we should look for. You're gonna get some information about how great the players that you rejected were.
Yeah. If I remember correctly, I think the post said something like that: the mom turns back to you and says, "Congratulations, you just rejected a powerful player." Something like that. That was a funny message. Yeah. Okay, so a new question. For instance, this one by Danny Beth87. With the old system, you could choose one youth player or none of them. With the new system, will it be possible to choose none of the proposed youth players, or you will have to choose always one?
There's a decline button, like decline all, so you don't have to choose one.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this part is also having lots of questions because it's not been released yet. We've announced it, but the users will be able to try it for the first time on Saturday, I guess. The financial update Saturday, Sunday. So that's probably why we have so many questions about this. Let's see. This one by Teseo0201. A younger player needs to stay in the youth academy for 112 days before being called on the senior team, or when it becomes 17-year-old and 0 days. Is it possible to call on senior club? Also, if wow, that's a difficult question to understand. Also, if it is on youth academy by a few days. Okay, yeah, I think I understood it. I think the question is, if the player becomes 17-year-old and you got it when he was 16, if you can promote him. But no, you have to wait 112 days, one season, right?
Yeah, we already answered that one.
Yeah, it's actually, that's, as we said, nothing else has changed. So if we haven't mentioned it, it's still as it was. Okay, another question by sub-level 4, who was complaining before that we were 1 minute late at the beginning of the stream. Sorry, you need to finish a couple of things. So, why is the Hattrick Arena now at the bottom of the menu?
Yeah, it's because we think it belongs there. We had, like, when we decided to put it in between the senior and the youth team in the from the start, the logic was somehow that the arena was connected to the senior team, and that's why it could not be below the youth team. But we were not totally in agreement, so we had different opinions within the team, and we thought this was the best. But now we kind of matured on that decision, so we think it makes sense that the stuff that is not part of the core game should be below the core game parts. So yeah, that's why. Then if it's right or wrong, I think it's impossible to say because it's subjective. Yeah.
Okay, so another question. Everything is related to the youth. Okay, so hello guys. I have a team where I have the old youth scouts. So every weekend I call them, but it brings old players like 18 years old or 17 and 90 days. Are there any plans to improve this system, the old scout network or the scout network, allowing to obtain under 20 potential players, or at least with higher skills above level 8?
Yeah, Tasos, maybe you can answer this one. We already did tweak that, but you can.
Yeah. Before this change, we tried to balance that the scout network will be slightly below the youth academy, like the youth team, because we want to focus that if you spend some time and put your own skills, then you should have better results. So the youth team is slightly above the scout network in relation to results. So we had the balance that we liked. Now, after these changes, if we see that this balance is affected, then we are going to change it. But as it is now, there's no point to. I mean, we cannot make them equally. That will be not fair, like from those that spend time on youth teams to have exactly the same results with the scout network.
Yeah, because I guess the point of the youth academy is building these players, not just promoting them as you do with the scout network and hey, here's an international player, So I guess it makes sense. Okay, so the Australia is back to the Youth Academy Cup, explaining a little bit what he thinks, his idea. So in the Youth Academy Cup, you should focus on training or on winning the cup match. If you sacrifice a training to try to win the match, you can be rewarded with an extra round, so an extra training. We can talk about the percentage of training on cup matches, so it won't be overpowered, but an incentive to try to keep winning rounds. What do you think?
Yeah, no, that's one way to do it. I mean, that's basically what I have been thinking, and we haven't put any serious effort into thinking about this, but like a very simple thing we could do is to add like either an extra training or like extra training pops, like random pops for players on your team after a win. I mean, like that you could apply already in the league system. That if you win a match, you get an extra training pop. Yeah, that's quite easy thing to do. And then you would suddenly have to, to balance, like, do I want to do something to try to win this match, or should I not bother? Of course, like in a cup system, I mean, it's quite a big advantage then. If you go far, you get an enormous amounts of trainings. Like if you get another 10 training matches in a season, that's quite a lot. I don't know if it's balanced, but yeah, I don't know. We haven't really thought about it, but if we do it, like, it's quite a lot of work to create a new competition system, and we already have a lot of matches. So do we create the stress? People have 3 or 4 teams, and then they're gonna have like suddenly 3 or 4 big competitions to deal with. So I don't know what's the best, but yeah, just keep the ideas coming, and maybe we will find some real.
Yeah, exactly. It's of course something that we cannot decide now. Oh, that's a good idea. Let's work on it. Yeah, there's, as with every single thing in this game, there are so many things to consider. When you implement a little big change, it makes like this kind of butterfly effect, and it may be a problem for another thing. I don't know if you guys have any questions about national teams or mobile, but we're only focusing on youth, but we'll have to move on in a while. We have one other, it's not really a question, it's more like a commentary by Dangerous Dave in Hampton. He said, good change with the maximum youth of 18. It would also be nice to recruit up to 3 per week. Okay, that means picking up more players, like 2 or 3 players offered by the scouts. But that might accidentally turbocharge the youth systems too much. I don't think it's something that we have considered and we could consider. Tasos?
I don't think we have discussed increasing that limit. And as I said, I don't think it's wise to do another change right now. Well, let's wait a little bit, see how the ecosystem will change, and then we do another change if it's only necessary.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's go to the mobile app. Will it be possible in the future to see the training preview in the mobile app? At the moment, it's not possible.
You mean the training prediction? The training preview in the lineup form, or?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I try to understand, because training estimation is already there, both for player and team. But it's quite hidden. Maybe he's not aware.
Maybe it's the these little lines in the match order form where you can see.
We added them in this release, so it's there.
Maybe the training page. In the training page, where you could see like all your players and whether they have trained or not. If they have, I don't know. Because as you said,
the training, on the training page, we have that training preview with all your players and how much they have trained that specific week. Okay, that's what I can say that
for all those things that are, I mean, that's like high value functions, whether they are supported or not. I think we want to have them in the app eventually. we want to have those things in the app if they're missing.
Okay. The same user, I am Zumi, explains the training estimation is for supporter. On the website, I can see which player has partial or full training.
No, I think that's a very valid feature for the future.
Yeah.
It's quite missing.
Okay, sublevel for real asks, or actually wonders, if there is currently anything you can do in the app that you cannot do on the website except for circles.
I think it's only that. That was like developed to be on the app. Yeah.
Maybe that's something other users can reply. But and I'm not familiar, and I'm more of a website player, but I'm not familiar about anything else now, at least that pops in my mind. Circles for sure. But
That would be a nice idea. I mean, if you have ideas, just share them. What we could do that it will be just for mobile apps.
yeah. And actually, there's a thread in the global forum at the moment, and there has been another one, like, regularly, about suggestions for mobile. Every once in a while, someone opens a thread saying, "Oh, I have these ideas for mobile," and people start like joining in and suggesting other ideas or other things from the website that could be implemented or that they would like to have implemented in mobile. So if you guys want to, collaborate there and suggest more ideas or suggest them here, the problem here is that we could lose track of them once the stream is over, but we could try to note them down. What else? Do you see any other questions related to mobile? Yes, there's this one. Again, sub-level. Well, I didn't see. You ask a lot of questions. Regarding, no, it's fine. I mean, we love it. Regarding app versus website, is there a movement towards Hattrick being an app-based game as opposed to a website-based game?
No, I don't think so. It's funny how like the things change in the tech world, and so like 10, 15 years ago, like everyone would give up their own websites and release apps that were only distributed through app stores. And now the trend is to go back and build your own websites again, because you want to control your own data, and you don't want to be stuck into, app stores and like with their distribution rules and revenue shares and so on. So we are very much like web. Our DNA is web, so I think we will always be a web, whether that's the market trend or not. But now, even now, the trend is actually going back towards maybe not web, but like that games try to control their own platform, and so. No, I mean, this is really just something that we're just behind, the app is not good enough, and people expect it to be more in sync and like up to par with the quality of the website. So we just have to do it, and I doubt very, very, very much that the app will ever be more advanced than the website, and that it's the website that will catch up. But I don't think that will happen. But of course, it could be different in 10 years. Who knows? But I don't think that will happen.
Yeah, but the fact that the website has such a big screen makes it hard for the app to be.
This kind of game, we know our users. You want to sit with all your data and like think about your strategy and have space for other stuff on the same screen, and like you want to sit in front of your desktop computer. And I think the people that play Hattrick are not gonna change their mind about that anytime soon. but then I mean, like, then you have other use cases, and that's like when you're just, you just want a distraction for 5 minutes, and there's stuff in Hattrick that fits that quite well. Like checking the transfer market, checking the forum, double checking your lineup or whatever. I mean, like maybe I need to tweak my lineup because the weather change or injuries update or something like that, and that you should be able to do very easily in the app, I think. Yeah, but no, we're not changing philosophy.
That's what happens when the player demographic is people who had to use dial-up modems to watch the games back in the day. Says Rampage. It's true. It's true. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a good summary of what we were saying, right? Okay, so more things. There were a couple of answers to the previous question, like things that are in the mobile app, not on the website, like notifications, like when your team scores a goal, when you have a player for sale and you're outbid, or in another bid, no. So it's like those notifications that on the website, I mean, you have it there on the ticker, but I don't know if I saw, this one. I haven't finished reading it, so maybe. Okay, Sven Philippe says, the app lets you compare your estimated ratings against a filterable average of your opponent's previous matches from the match order screen. I'm not aware of that.
So that's something that is in the app, but not on the website?
Exactly.
All
right. I don't think you can do it on the website. You can not do the average. You can do individual matches.
Okay.
Because we have the team analyzer. But on the app, we don't have the team analyzer. So that is something like a mini team analyzer in the match orders page. That's a good,
I still think the one in the website is better, because especially when teams play in very different tactics or strategies or formations from one match to the other. Okay, so what else we have? Actually, we have 3 comments, starting with Tasos' shirt, which is always a sensation. Let me see which one would be the first, because they were. Well, the first is this one, but there was one a minute afterwards. It says, nice to see Tasos with 15 stars. That's nice forward. A technological forward. So you have you no thoughts about being able to take up juniors to the A squad earlier? That would make it easier for homegrown teams. Now you have to wait, even if the players are completely finished with their training, or wait until a season has passed since the player came up to the junior team. All players-ish who are 16 years old today cannot be picked up for even a bit into the age of 17. Okay, that was a long question, but I think it was clear.
I think that will affect a lot the balance, because right now the training speed is different. So if you can promote earlier, then you can train them way faster. And also the training speed has been developed in a way that works from 70 years old and above. So I don't think that will work without big changes.
Okay. And now back to your shirt. Since we can see Tasos is having a 15 stars performance, does he also have a spec? If yes, what would be the most suitable spec for the 3 hat-tricks in this stream? 3 HT. There's actually already a couple of replies. There are actually some suggestions. For instance, we have Maxim Rovis saying that I am quick based on the speed of replies on the forums. Thank you. Johan has resilient based on the many years he's been doing Hattrick relentlessly and still going strong. And Tasos has technical based on the vast knowledge of what's happening in the background. I like it.
I like it. I was actually gonna say resilient for myself. So for exactly that same reason.
Do you agree, guys?
Yeah, I agree. I would pick the same, I think.
I'm not sure about quick, but certainly not powerful, not technical, not unpredictable. So maybe, yeah.
But creative, like you can play creatively. So, but
Yeah,
that's a tactic.
Yeah, it's not a spec. I
No.
would say I'm specless. But yeah, quick sounds good. I don't know if anything else has commented. Anything else? Surely Chase should be support, says sub-level 4. Oh, support, I like that one. I mean, in the game it's not the most useful spec, but I like being a support. Okay, so more questions. For instance, this one by TV Cafe. Hi everyone, after a player retires from activity, don't you guys think it's more interesting that player to receive real years with 365 days and not hat-trick years? Possibly a silly idea, it has nothing to do with the subject of the evening, but it's fine. What do you think, guys? I mean,
Yeah,
it's tricky. I mean, players or ex-players will last longer. They will not reach 80 something, 90, 100. But at the same time, if we have father and son,
it's a little weird.
it's something
like
weird.
the
Complicate.
son retires at 35 and his father is suddenly only 40, whereas he used to be 20 years older. Yeah.
Pedro Zurita, still playing 80 years old, had a father who had retired like 40 years ago. Maybe the father would be 60 and Pedro Zurita will be 80. I don't know.
The thing is that I'm like a bit of a fundamentalist when it comes to like the integrity of the universe. I don't wanna take any shortcuts. I mean that's also why it's starting to become a problem that we have 130-year-old players and so on. But or not players. We do players also. But I want to like solve that in some other way, I think.
Yeah. Actually, as you know, related to this subject, there's something that arises really often about those scouts mainly or Hall of Fame players that work in your team being like 100 and something years old, and they're still going strong. So I don't know if we're considering, like, I wouldn't say killing them because it's like too harsh, but maybe just retiring them. And
I mean, like a few years ago, we had a project that we were supposed to do and we never did, and it was probably good because it was not the best time spent probably, but like the idea was somehow that these staff members could announce that they were retiring, and then you had like a season or two to prepare for that. And then they would like just disappear. But maybe like an easier thing is just we stop showing the age at a certain point, and then whatever, but they can still exist. I mean, why do you need to know the age of a scout? It's not relevant. But we had, I mean, like, the working name for that feature was Ättestupa, which is like this mythical Viking tradition of pushing your old people out from a cliff. And so we would have that in this Swedish game. But I think there's, it would not be so appreciated by all users. So we didn't push forward with that.
Okay, so we have further explanation from Fru Wagner about what he meant. And he said that what he's looking for is that you should be able to bring up a player to the A team at 17 0 days, even if the player joined the junior team, let's say at the age of 16 and 50 days, so that you shouldn't have to wait a season minimum. There's no need to read the rest because it's an explanation of what we all know. So what do you think, Tasos?
That was the second limitation that we have. And when we were discussing about the youth changes, we actually discussed about that as well. And we just didn't want to do two big changes out of nowhere. So we might do it in the future. We don't know. Haven't planned it, but it's something we might do. But if we do, we might need to do other changes at the same time to balance it a little bit. That's why I said we need to monitor. We need to see how these changes will affect the ecosystem, and then we decide what else we can do.
Okay, so now that we were talking a while ago about our specialities, there's this question from Audio Star: is there an idea to rework or both technical support resilient specs, because these specs are useless in so many ways? I wouldn't say useless, but it's true that they're a little bit like less important as others, less useful. Tasos.
Well, sooner or later we will do some kind of balance changes in the specialties. We don't have anything until first quarter of next year for sure. After that, I cannot comment. But yeah, probably we'll do it someday.
Yeah. Okay, so shall we go back to the Youth Academy? I still have a lot of questions about it. Let's start with this one. We keep receiving this question every once in a while, but we can answer it again from Lord Bebbington. Nice name. What about in the future having an overseas academy but youth players don't get the homegrown bonus?
I mean, I think I mentioned this before, but I'm quite curious to like internationalize the youth system a little bit so that you could maybe send your scouts abroad. It would have to be a little bit carefully done, but it could be an interesting way to open up and like create new strategies for the national teams as well. That ways for smaller leagues to get more talent and so on. And obviously, then you would have to consider whether those should have homegrown bonuses or not. But haven't thought about that. But I like the idea of allowing a little more diversity in the youth teams.
Yeah, because the question that we normally get is actually having a scout in another country rather than a full overseas academy. But I think that's
this thing of overseas academy, it just seems unnecessarily complicated. But like send a scout to another region in another country, that would be pretty easy, I think. So
yeah, I think it would be nice. What do you think, Tasos? Having like scouts in another country.
No, I think this is an idea that I remember several times discussing with you, Johan, that we both want it with one or the other way. But yeah, it would be cool. It would be cool, but we need to be careful about homegrown.
Yeah, and then the implications, as Johan said, for other nations. What would it mean that players, or the users, would tend to?
Maybe you don't get as much information on those players because it's harder to know them well. Maybe you just you miss some a little bit of data on them, or it's more expensive, or it takes more time to find, or something. But at the same time, I mean, it can't be too yeah, it can't be too much of a disadvantage either. But of course, like if you're a German team and you can pick a youth player from from a Caribbean island, the chances of getting into the NT is probably a lot bigger. So
Exactly.
that's a big advantage.
Mhm.
So it's an advantage for the team that does it, but it's also an advantage for the league that
Yeah.
you take it from. Um,
Yeah, for the
and
country. I
of
mean, the
course,
national team.
yeah, and a disadvantage for the big national team, obviously the German, but maybe it could be nice still. Worth thinking about, I think.
Yeah, I think it's maybe good. I haven't analyzed it, of course, but it may be good for the smaller leagues to catch up with the bigger countries, national teams. I mean, now if we have like one of those leagues with 3-4 divisions that started a while ago, they still probably have less interesting players than Germany, for instance, or Spain or Italy or Poland. This way, it could be closer. So it may be interesting, but of course, we would need to study it a lot because it probably has a lot of implications.
Mm.
And
I mean,
another
there
thing,
is so many side of. I wouldn't say like there's so many side effects that we cannot consider or we might lose. And for example, there is a comment from Priest. I cannot pronounce that. With saying like someone can sabotage another country, for example, by picking that country and then finding the best players and then fire them or just don't train them. There's so many implications that we need to consider before we go there, but it's something we might do.
yeah, of
We need
course.
to.
Yeah, this could be done with your own country as well. Or maybe you're inexperienced and you don't know that you have a good player or whatever. But
Mm.
what Johan was saying before about making it more difficult to get players from another country in the sense that you could have less skills revealed, or maybe the scout could could show you one player every 2 weeks from that country because they're far away. Things like that would probably prevent managers to just sabotage another country, because I guess, well, there's people for everything, but I guess people would like to compete.
Yeah.
But we've seen some cases.
The guy who asked, or guy or girl who asked the question, is also saying maybe a second nationality could be an option, and that's another thing that I've also often talked to Tassos about. Since the players have an ethnicity, like in the Swedish league, we can pick from 10 or 15 different languages. I mean, so to say, ethnicities. That you could have a Swedish player that has a Turkish name or Danish name, and obviously they would have, if we were more realistic, they would have the chance to have a second nationality in real life. And so if they are not picked by the Swedish national team, why should they not, be available for the Danish, for example? And I think that could also be quite cool that, some players, if they're not picked up by one team, they could be claimed for another. So I think there's a lot of cool stuff that we could do here in the future.
Yeah, and I don't know if you mentioned that because I was reading, but again, back to the possible sabotage sub-level for real, said that choosing foreign as a location and get a youth from a random country, unless someone wants to sabotage every country in the game.
Yeah, but maybe I'm stupid, but like, how would you? So if you send your scout to a country to sabotage it, you're gonna cause that country to have more talent, more youth players spawned, and if you pick a great player there, that player would not have, been picked probably if you didn't go there and look for it. So maybe that could have happened, but it's just like, I mean, you're creating more. Since you go there, you're gonna create more youth pools to be chosen. So maybe you're actually causing that country to get more talent players that are picked by someone else in the long run. I mean, it's not an obvious way of sabotaging anything, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
there's always a critical way of seeing everything.
yeah, and it's good. It's good, but yeah, of course, sabotaging would mean being lucky and getting that great player that would play in the national team. It's not that you go to another country and you pick the best player. Like, okay, we have lots of questions now. It's good. For instance, I have saved this one for a while. Do you think the players picked from the scouts should be a bit younger? Because it seems like now it's the middle of 16-year-olds and rarely see 15-year-olds. I think that's a good question for Tasos.
Actually, the chances is 1/3 for 15 years old and 2/3 for 16 years old. So I think it's a little bit of bias that we want 50 years old. So when we don't find it, we feel that it's more common that we don't do it. But the chances is exactly like that. It's the same for Scout Network. 1/3 for 70 years old, 2/3 for 80 years old. So I mean, if we want to make it even more than that, I don't know.
We haven't discussed this really, but like one thing that I feel like now that you see these three youth pools at the same time next to each other, that maybe it could be an idea in the future to make it a little more granular the age, so that you had like, low 18, low 17, low 16, or high 15 or whatever, like so you get a little bit more to base your decision on. So it can be quite frustrating to pick a 16-year-old and then you get one that is 16 years and 100 days, for example. But yeah, that's I think we're gonna do some tweaks on the youth pool, like mechanics, the formula there, now that we have this new and better system interface, but there can be some tweaks done to make it work better in the future.
Do you want more questions about Youth Academy? Because we've got some more. For instance, this one. Now, since we will be able to recruit 3 youths in the same time, wouldn't the pool get filled with even more standard weak players because we recruit one only and the other 2 are getting back in pool? Complex question. Tasos.
As I said, it's exactly the same behavior. Before, you calling someone, and if you didn't accept it, going back to the pool. It's the same now. You call, you get 3, you choose one, the rest going back to the pool. So I don't really see.
I think he means that with the previous system, you could call one scout, accept the player because it was good, and you don't call scouts 2 and 3. So you wouldn't be.
When you reject a player, it goes back to the pool.
So, and when you don't call it, it stays in the pool. So
stay in the pool. So it's exactly the same numbers.
Exactly the same. Perfect. Another one. Did you change the system for youth pools because you see a lot of high potential players not getting pulled by teams? Or was it just to remove the pain of gambling and losing?
Neither, I would say. I think it was more about having a consistent experience. Well, maybe more the second one there. It had nothing to do with manipulating the quality of the output, at least. So to make it a little less confusing and irritating for users, I think it was the main reason. And maybe you can say that it's a little more like the second option.
And in the same subject, what are the chances for other users to pick the 2 players that were put back in the pool from the person who chose from the 3 choices? I think we understand the question, right? Because it's complex.
I think it's some decent chances, because I remember youth. Sorry, I got lost. I remember the youth club, the CHPP. They had a feature that if you pull a player that someone else has pulled and discarded before, you got also their scoped comments. So I would say it's not super rare. It can happen.
Okay. What else? There's a question that has been asked like half an hour ago. I've been saving it, but here it is, because it's a lovely question to my Greek friend Tasos from, I'm not going to pronounce this name because I don't know how these X's should be pronounced. So if I knew where he was from, maybe I could try. It could be pronounced many ways depending on the language. So
he's from Greece.
He's from Greece.
Those are Greek.
Happy.
Yeah.
The S is like ka, right?
Yeah. Let's forget it. He's a returning user. I asked him to change the nickname because I don't like it. So, I mean, that's something we have discussed quite several times, both in the internet and in the forum. I know it sounds repetitive, but we don't have plans for the near future. We might do it, but that would be a huge change. So we need to consider it and be sure that we want it before we do it.
Okay.
I mean, it will open up a totally different kind of strategy, but it will change a lot.
Okay. In case someone wasn't watching or is not watching or whatever, the question is, are we going to see soon multiple training in the senior team? Because I didn't read it. I was joking with the name and I didn't read it, but just in case. Because I know we have lots of blind users. I don't know if they're watching, not surely hearing the stream, but just in case, What else do we have here? This one. For instance, it's kind of a suggestion from Sven Philippe. I have friends that like to follow my team. It would be cool if you could share a link to the matches with the app without having to go to the desktop version.
I like this one. Yeah, I like it. Very good idea.
So we can take notes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I think we all agree that it's very interesting. Or maybe any way that we could do it in the app, like send link to user to match. It doesn't, because I guess they're all using the Hattrick app, or maybe not. And I have to say, I'm inclined to highlight this one, even though it's a joke. But could you introduce a type of player that improves the atmosphere of the team? We could call him the clown. Yeah, I've been reading a lot these days about the former Hattrick clown and how it started. I remember it, from my first period, and how it was. I think it was Jekken said that no, clowns don't exist. I mean, they don't have any effect. And how there was a team that was buying clowns and killing them, or firing them. But I said killing them because he was called something like the clown slasher or something like that. So he didn't like clowns, not in real life, but on Hattrick. You know, the thing that people were playing like, I know, 100K for useless players. And he was getting them and firing them, getting them and firing them, and removing the clowns from the game. So it's interesting that we get this question now. And back to specialities. The Strelio asks, or says, I'm just at the beginning of a project with 4 or 5 homegrown players with speciality. I'm very scared now after hearing Tasos talking about balancing specs with my 4 teams.
This is why we never want to answer these questions, because we can't say that we will never do it. So we have to say that we're not thinking about doing it right now, but maybe in the future. Yeah.
But I think that would...
You just have to have nightmares about that until further notice. You never know. It might happen.
But of course, if we did anything, it would be like, first of all, announced like previously. And if the effect is big, it would be gradual, as we usually do with all the changes that have an effect on long-term planning, right?
Yeah, I think it would be.
Most of them are like that. There are some cases that's not possible, but in 9 out of 10 cases, we do it like this.
And I think he's safe. I mean, if he's starting a project with homegrown players with a certain speciality, those specialities will still be good. I don't know what specialities are, but I guess the powerful, unpredictable, quick head, maybe. But the thing that could be done is improve the other specialities a bit, not like bluffing or nerfing the other ones, right?
Yeah, we're just speculating now. So
exactly, exactly. So sorry, I was trying to hide this one. I'm tempted also to highlight a comment by Alpa, his first comment here today, about the Stars and Tasos shirts. 555 is because Tasos is tripling inadequate. Doesn't make
all-arounder.
That's a very internal joke. Yeah.
And there's another thing that I want to highlight from M. Folky. Thank you for moving the arena menu. And I want to highlight it because I was telling privately to the team that it's something that this kind of changes in the menu or things like that, if we get any comments, are usually from people who don't like it. So, I mean, usually if you like a change, like the menu is moved from here and there, you say, okay, and you just interact with it, or maybe you just don't care. But you don't write it down, and we appreciate it if we get this kind of comments, because otherwise we may get the feeling that the change has not been welcome. And I'm sure there will be other people, and I have someone in mind that will probably don't like this kind of change. And I have to say that it's still taking me a while to getting used to it. I usually want to go to youth team and click on Hattrick Arena matches, for instance, But
I have to say that I think, if I remember correctly, I wanted it between senior and youth, and Daniel wanted it at the end. And then we had a discussion, and we just did it that way that it was. And now he asked for it again, and I couldn't remember why I wanted it between senior and youth in the first place, so I was fine with moving it, and now I'm happy that it's there. So I think it's just a matter of what you're used to, but we'll see what people say. I think it's better where it is now after the change.
I have to say that I'm divided too. It's hard to have an order. If you think that the importance lies on your senior team, then it makes sense that senior team and Hattrick Arena are together. But if you think the importance is a core versus non-competitive games or non-official, whatever you want to call it, then it makes sense and youth team is closer to seniors. So it depends on the way you see it, right?
Yeah. No, I think the argument we had was that at some point in the future we might want youth teams in arena as well, and then it makes sense that it's between there. That was what we said at least, but we haven't done it yet, so probably won't do it for some while. So I think it's better down there, and I think the core team should be together. So the core game stuff.
Okay, I've just seen an interesting question by Lord Brython, of course. He always asks interesting questions. Hey, Chase, a bit off topic, but still interesting, I'd say. Why do you all three wear beards in real life and not in your avatars? Is that any kind of an unwritten rule? I'll reply first for myself. The beards that are in the avatars are too big. I just have a very short beard, and I don't have this in the avatars. Otherwise, I would have it, because I try to make my avatar look a little bit like me. So maybe it's something that we could improve. Like the 3-day beard.
I also don't have a headband.
It's true. And open eyes.
I don't agree that I have a beard. This is just not having shaved for a few weeks. So
but that's the definition of a beard, I think. And you, Tasos, you look exactly like your avatar, right? Except the beard.
Reversed.
So you were trying to make the opposite of what you really are.
Oh, mine is quite funny, because when I chose that avatar, it was before we actually had the customization. We only had like a random generator. So I had this avatar, and then there was a contest, like a game in a federation. I was back then. I was an HT, and we wanted to put in all of us like a mustache. And they said that there is no way you can find an avatar like this with a mustache. And I spent like a whole week, clicking on random generator just to find this avatar. And I said, like, after a week of trying, I'm not gonna change it. I'm gonna keep it forever. So that's why I cannot change it. It's too much effort to go to garbage.
Okay, so we're now getting, I don't know why, suddenly lots of questions about the same topic that we haven't mentioned it. It comes every once in a while. I think you know what I mean. I think this is the first one. Where can we buy your merch at?
Well, the same guy asked for Hattrick caps earlier in the chat. So this is actually the second time. No, you can't buy it. You just have to long for it until further notice. But we hope to have something up in a few months.
So you have to wish hard, and maybe it will become true.
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah, because I see a lot of people asking about even the board game, the T-shirts, hats. It's good. It's good to know that people want merch. So more questions. Let's see if I understand this one from Salty Vegan 69. How does the new system impact scouting for specific player types? Tasos?
Impact, as we said, nothing changed.
Okay.
It's exactly the same system. We just pick 3 of them.
Perfect. Then we have one of the questions that comes every once in a while again about long shots. You really need to balance the long shots tactic. It's totally unbalanced, and I know you guys know that.
Yeah, I was thinking, because this is a good transition to talking about the Hattrick Masters final tomorrow, which is between 2 teams that are not using long shots. And I don't know how it's been earlier in the tournament, but it's obviously not the tactic that you need for winning the Masters.
If I remember correctly from Nicarana's stats, it was around 10% of the teams playing in the Hattrick Masters.
There are long shot teams.
Yeah. I of course, I don't remember the exact figure, but it was around 10, maybe 15. And if I remember correctly, going down every year. I'm not 100% sure, but the numbers were already there. And from I would say the teams that have progressed further, I don't recall any long shot team being there. But of course, I may have missed one. So maybe, are you saying that maybe it's not that totally unbalanced, at least for top teams?
No, if he says that it's totally imbalanced and that we guys know it, I have to say that that's not true.
It's probably the easiest one to train, because you train less characteristics for a whole team. But it has its limitations.
What I really love about long shots is whenever there's a thread in global, there are 2 groups of users. One group says that we have destroyed long shots and it's not usable, and the other group says that long shots are overpowered and we need to do something because they can win everything. So I always enjoy reading those threads between those 2 groups. I still try to understand, is it overpowered or we just destroy them?
Do you grab popcorn while you're reading?
Sometimes.
Yeah, it happens with some other things like the match engine and the chance distribution. It's like 2 groups of people with their opinions and arguments, and I don't know who's winning.
Just checking, in the semifinals, no one used any tactics at all. It was normal tactics in all the semifinals of Master. In the quarterfinals, let's see here. There's 2 pressing, and the rest normal. So no long shots in the quarterfinals and forward.
What we have is lots of comments about long shots. It's something that triggers the people to write. For instance, Burst says that long shots is overpowered in lower divisions and balanced or slightly underpowered in top tier competitions. Yeah.
Here's the solution.
Exactly. If you have a problem, promote. As if it was easier. But then we have the perfect arguments, a perfect exposition from Alpa. Long shots is evil. Great explanation. And Kami in 1992 says that it's not about the Masters, it's more about the amount of teams that are not playing in Hattrick Masters. Long shot teams abuse secondary cups and lower leagues with little training. Yeah, more or less what we were saying. So I think we agree in more or less, even though sub-level 4 says, how do you promote against long shot teams if long shot teams are overpowered? Good point.
But that would mean that the long shots, they win the series, but they don't promote. Or
yeah, of course they could promote, but they don't score many goals. Division swap. If it's in the lower leagues, because I guess we're talking about the lower leagues. Okay, what else? Do you see any other question?
We can skip the one about our progress with our homegrown teams, I think.
Do you have this one? I haven't seen it.
Shouldn't have mentioned that.
I have to say I'm not focusing that much with my homegrown team now. First of all, because playing against the HTs was so much fun. And it was like a challenge to try to beat you all and fail. And on the other hand, we were all on the same level, more or less. We started with the same players and were, Gussie was somewhere else, of course, but we had the same players and it was tight. But now I feel that since I'm training goalkeeper, I'm lagging behind some other teams in the division. So
I would like to say something about my season, but I think if I say what I was planning to say, it will be used against me forever. So I can't say anything about the amount of injuries and unlucky results I had.
Injuries don't work. Match engine sucks. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. That was my thought. But I didn't say that now, so you can't quote me on that.
You, Tasos, how are you doing with the homegrown team?
After the whole demoralization by Gussie, I decided to restart. And I'm just waiting for that goalkeeper youth pool. So I can start training goalkeeper and then restart the whole training plan.
And you have
I
the
have one
goalkeeper.
really, I have a potential one, but I'm still trying to find a second one.
That's interesting. Okay, no questions. Another question that, do you want the question that we get asked like regularly? Or we have replied it like so many times, but I guess like some people may be watching us for the first time, so it's not that bad to have this question again. Is it planned to add women's teams in the future?
Yeah, I think we want it eventually, but it's but much bigger. I mean, like I have answered this so many times, but like it doesn't feel right to just add it. There's like we need to rework all the texts. We need to like reconsider game design and mechanics and so on to make it like a fresh experience.
Exactly.
So it's quite a big one.
Perfect. And this question, again from sub-level 4, who keeps asking lots of questions, but we love that, of course. How do you guys feel about the 10% increase in salary to players with specs? Has it had the desired effect? I can see Tassos' brain like...
running the numbers in my head. I don't think we can quantify every expected result we have. Like, we are 3% slightly like more than what we wanted to. We had the direction. Yeah, maybe it wasn't so hard as we expected or as we wanted, not expected. But I think it was a good change. I don't think we should increase it more or decrease it. I think it's at the rate.
I think it's balanced.
Yeah.
Okay, another one. Are we going to see new comments in the live match? Yeah,
I was following the Swedish national team stream, which have become a habit now on Friday nights. If you're Swedish, I recommend it. And they were talking a lot about how there are some events that what's going to happen from the first the first live event, the first part of the live event. So I mean, that's one thing that I would absolutely want to look at if there anyone like that, because it makes a big difference if you keep the suspense until the last event. But yeah, that was probably not what was asked, but it's quite easy for us to add events. So I really think, I mean, like what we call commentary events is like events that are not game engine related, but it could be like, like taking information from other parts of the game and display it during the match. So absolutely we will add more events. And yeah, it's a nice thing to do. We will do it.
And there's another subject that we haven't brought up today, but it was from the previous release, the injuries, or the one before that? One before that, yeah. So, am I the only one who doesn't hate the injuries rework? I don't really know how it was before because it's my second season, but my teams are still able to compete in a good way. This is something that I'm finding funny, but at the same time, kind of makes it a little bit upset when I see upsets, or when I see all these 2 or 3 threads every once in a while about how injuries, the rework of injuries was shit. Sorry for the word, because the user who writes and opens this thread, because he gets more injuries. And then we see other people saying, yeah, it's true. And then they ask Tasos to bring some stats. He brings the stats, and they ask Tasos to bring more stats and bring them again and try again, because there certainly can be right. So Tasos, if you want to say anything about injuries, first of all, we have reduced them.
Yeah, we have reduced not only the frequency, but the severity as well. For severity more than the frequency, to be honest. There is one part that it wasn't clear because we put that label less injuries, is that matches with one single injury per team is exactly the same as before. What we reduced is the chances to have more injuries in the same match. That's what we have reduced a lot. And the severity is, in average, maybe a week less than before. But I mentioned that in another thread in Global, that's the downside, that's the side effect. When you do a change that it's not big enough, then you get this kind of feedback, because it's not visible in isolation. It's not visible per user. It's only visible when you check the whole stats. So the user itself see it as nothing changed, but actually we have reduced it. And it will be the same, like we discussed it about the random in match engine, that if we slightly reduce it, we are going to have another wave of this kind of feedback that we haven't changed. We have made that worse, but actually we just changed it a little bit, that it's not possible to observe it if you analyze one by one a team. Otherwise, we cannot do huge changes. We cannot reduce it by 50%. That will be a totally different game. So what I would say, like right now we are like 7-8% less injuries and about a week less of severity, which is, I think, a nice change. It's not, we haven't overdone it. It's not nothing. It's better than before. So I think we are in the sweet spot.
And actually, for those who have more injuries this season, it's just luck. I mean, it could have happened without the change, and probably you'd have longer injuries. It's just that sometimes luck strikes in one season or in one period, and then in the next period or the period before, you didn't have as many injuries. So having one bad season or one bad streak of 3-4 matches doesn't mean that the system is not working, that the change doesn't work. So it's something that sometimes it's hard to explain or to make some users understand. But luckily we have other users who do and say, I haven't had any injury, or I've just had a few injuries. So, but I still get those. Okay, so I think we can probably finish, because I can see just a few more comments and questions. For instance, this one from Baldusior: could you allow Hattrick supporters to challenge for friendly matches in multiple countries? I guess it means like selecting multiple countries, but not all in the pool, in the friendly pool.
Oh, in the friendly pool.
I guess.
Yeah.
But it would mean changing the drop-down menu and converting it into something, a bit tricky.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's worth it. But
yeah, it's a lot of work. Yeah. And what else? Now questions are coming. I miss some of my old players who are fired. Would there be a chance in the future to see them in some bot teams, or even available in some fired players pool? I guess that when you fire a player, you get that message. Are you sure?
No, but I mean, I like the thought, but of course he would still be lost to you, right? It's just that we would recycle the name and the player ID somehow. But yeah, this is the kind of stuff that I think can be cool. And then I go to the dev meeting and explain how I would like to do this, and they look at me like I'm an idiot. Like, why would we spend a week building such a feature when we can do something that is actually useful? And then I keep quiet for a while. So I'm not sure if it's time well spent, but worth thinking about.
In case we won't be able to do it retroactively. If you fire him, it's gone.
Yeah, that's the thing. When you fire the player, it disappears from the system. So it's like the team ID thing. We would have to start, and then in the future, the fired players will be able, but not. So another question: when will you add career stats to a player's career for your club instead of by season? I don't know if you understand the season. I don't look much at my players' career stats. So I'm not familiar.
There are some.
I remember.
There are like career goals.
No.
So what kind of extra stats we're looking for?
No, that it's career stats to players' career. Yeah.
Maybe.
I have to look at it, how it looks on the site.
There is. Now I understand. I think I understand. When you go in supporter statistics, some of the options, they don't have the option all seasons. They have only specific seasons. So I can choose, for example, season 74, 73, 72, but I cannot choose all of them, like aggregated data. We added a few years ago, but we had to remove it a week after because we almost burned the servers. The way that we store the stats are almost impossible performance-wise to add that all option. If we want to do it, we need to change the way we store the data. So it's a big project just for that. This is something that comes up quite often. So I expect that sooner or later we're going to do it. But it's not a tiny feature.
Yeah. Okay, another question from, well, it says LA Magic says that there was a question from one of the fellow LAs. Is there any experience for the Contender Cup national matches? You want to answer to that, Tasos? Because I just answered it in global.
I answered that in global for both player experience and ranking experience. And we have updated the manual. We just did it today, so it will take some time to go to stage and then to production servers. But just to give you the same answer I gave to global, player experience is the same as Nations Cup. Much importance for ranking is the same as the Continental Cup.
Continental Cups.
Continental Cups, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So another one. The biggest amount of managers has one team. To build a team, you need 3 years until the peak of players, and players are in a good shape for 1.5 years until they restart, until you restart. Have you ever considered those managers who can pay what they will do until their team will be strong again? First of all, we know that is the best way to reach the top divisions, but do everybody play like this?
No, I remember talking to Gusi, and she was like, she's always constantly been a top performing team.
Yeah.
And she never cycles, she just maintains a high level, and but she trades a lot, I think, also, or she's like strong on the financial part. So I don't think all the top managers rely on cycles either, but
yeah.
And obviously, like all, like if you're gonna talk about, he says the biggest amount of managers has one team. That's true, but the majority of those are not cycle trainers. That's quite a small percentage.
Yeah, I know many.
Even so, there is. I think he has a point, but I just don't know. We can't create another game that should be like some kind of meta game that you can get involved in during like those periods. But yeah, flag chasing, achievements, that kind of stuff.
Okay, another question by Will. There was a player who I wanted to add to my Hall of Fame, but when I went to find him, it said that his glory days are behind him and I cannot add him. Is there a different way?
No, I lost my best player this way, and I never saw him again. Even I can't put them back from the dead. So yeah.
I mentioned like 10 minutes ago, okay, last questions, and now lots of questions are popping up. I know if you want to stop, we could just reply to these questions any other day. But if you feel like with a little bit strength of continuing in like for 10 more minutes.
Yeah, 10 more minutes maybe.
Yeah, okay, 10 more minutes then. Maybe we don't need any more questions now. Well, there's this one by Perst, and certainly I missed it accidentally the first time. When will you start streaming in 1080p? Or is HT on Twitch retro as it is on the web as a game?
I actually wrote this down to check why we're not doing it. So I wrote it down. It's one of the few things that I wrote down today to check on. So
I can give you the answer.
Yeah, I think, but I wonder if, because there's some different tiers in Twitch as a streamer, so it could be that that's only unlocked.
But it's not about Twitch and this problem here.
Okay.
It's because we're using a system
Okay.
to split the signal to both Twitch and YouTube.
Okay.
And this system, at least what we have now, only allows 700. Well, it doesn't allow like 100,000 ATP. But maybe it's something that we can consider. Maybe today we didn't need it as much. We're not that handsome, I think, to be in, at least me, to be in 10 ATP. But when we show a screen, maybe yes, it would be nice if we watch like the Hattrick Masters final, for instance. Yeah, it would be good. I didn't know you guys were paying attention to that. Well done, Perst. And now that we mentioned in the Hattrick Masters final, it's tomorrow, right, Johan?
Yeah, it's tomorrow night. I think.
Are you going to watch it?
No, I won't be able to because I will be in the car. Unfortunately.
I think it's a very interesting final. Yeah. We have Tornet Balompié from Spain and Mink Stiglitz from Belarus. And it seems it will be like very tight. I have the feeling.
Extremely tight, yeah.
I hope any of you or some of you will be watching it. And I don't know if any streamers will follow it. Maybe Mish. We don't know. He hasn't confirmed it to me. I asked him last week and he said maybe he would, but it would be nice if lots of users follow it with him. Okay.
There's several Spanish language streamers, and I wouldn't be surprised if they follow, since it's one of the teams is Spanish.
Could be, yeah. I'll try to figure out and maybe write it in the forum. Okay. This question that also pops up regularly. How about the idea of a learning of the team in halftime, like switching the attack side or playing more offensively, defensively, like in real life? I guess it means in real time, right?
So you mean like that there would be some kind of check, and if you succeed, the team could adapt automatically based on, like if one side has been given up, then you can move some attack over on that side, for example.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you could change sides by moving players, but without of knowing that if it's the good side or bad side.
Right now, there are like individual orders for subs. We don't have anything like team-oriented orders, like do like a group of orders that you can change your team from defensive to offensive.
I mean, potentially, let's say that we had new what do we call it? Factors, or for the orders, like if the opponent is playing this tactic, change my tactic too, and that could be predefined tactics, so to say. But now we have never talked about it, so
Okay, so last questions, and I'm sorry if I'll forget or miss some of them. But for instance, this one from Bussum Kingston: are there any plans on the roadmap for changing or improving man marking?
No.
Sorry for being repeated, but nothing nothing for sure before like March.
Yeah.
Maybe later.
We have to say, like, how it is when the journalists ask the team that is not doing that well, do you still have confidence in the manager? And they always say, the president will always say, we have confidence in the manager until we no longer have confidence in the manager. And it's the same thing here. It's not planned until it's being planned, and until then it's absolutely not being planned. But then suddenly it could be planned.
there is a thread in the global forum these days about man marking, and again, like in the other cases we were talking about before, there are two sides: those that say that it's good as it is, and those that say that it's overpowered. So we never know what the majority think, unless, of course, if we did a poll. And last question from Steve Rafe. He says, I have been waiting patiently for my small irritation for 2 real years to be implemented. Is there any plan for national team training page to incorporate the entire prospect list, or some way to toggle between prospect list and team player training updates in the next few months? That's really specific. Tasos.
Well, it's the same. Like, we have plans until February. It's not there. What will happen after that? We will know it in February, so we can discuss it again on another release, on another stream. But that's a valid feature. I mean, it's not a small irritation. It's and kind of a little bit more bigger project. But yeah, no, it's a valid. I would say that we will have it sometime.
Okay, so to end, I will just first highlight Papa Mish's reply to what I was saying. He says he's not sure yet about the Masters stream, so stay tuned. He thanks us for the stream. And actually, we've got 2 or 3 more comments about this. First of all, I'd like to mention this one. Johan, you destroyed me in the friendly game in Tahiti last week, Tuesday. Bra spelat.
Yeah, so we can have a quick quiz here. If someone can figure out why the only team that is doing really great out of my 3 ones is the team in Tahiti.
But that's because of Dema's lessons.
Because he's coaching me. Now you have to buy this player. Now you have to change training to this and so on. So yeah, I'm doing really well there. That team is doing great. And I have 8 wins out of 8. So.
But
Nice.
there was a myth in the past about a lucky team ID. Maybe you have a lucky team ID, Johan.
Does it exist?
I don't know. I don't know if I should mention this, but I got an email from like a really, really long time user that I know real well, and that has been a GM as well. And he was like, I've been thinking for like 10 years that I have an unlucky team ID because, just look at all these matches. And then he explained a lot of situations where things had happened. And could it really be true? Could you please check it for me? And I mean, there is no way, there is no such thing. But yeah, it's an idea that if you feel unlucky, maybe you will feel plagued by it. Yeah.
Okay. And finally, to this comment, thanks for the fun, I guess. Or for the fun, I would still insist to check this game out, even in private. We will check it. And anyway, there are a couple of threads in the forum to post. I guess it's unlucky games. And we will take a look at them. And then finally, 2 messages from Steve Rafe. Nice stream today. I really enjoyed the changes that were made. I was really worried we wouldn't have a November release due to it being the 13th of the month. Yeah, we had to postpone it a bit to do it well, And the last one. Honestly, this was the best laugh I had during all the streams until now. Thank you very much, Johan. You just made my day. I think it was when you mentioned that comment about your team
being unlucky and having too many injuries. Yeah,
exactly. Good luck with the injuries in the future. And sometimes we all draw the shortest straws with RNG. So I think we can call it a day now.
Yep.
And go to sleep. Sleep tight if you're going to sleep now, depending on where you're watching and your time schedule.
Don't forget to get 8 hours of sleep, everyone. It's very important.
That's important.
Okay.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you, Johan and
Bye-bye.
Tasos. See you soon, guys.